Looks like we're live streaming right now. Let me know in the comments because we are streaming to multiple platforms. So we got a special guest today. And this is the first time we're streaming to like YouTube, my Facebook profile, the group, pages, everywhere. I don't even know where you're going to see this, but wherever you do, let's get some love and do a hashtag live, hashtag replay. We have a special guest. You may have seen him before. And if you did miss it, you're going to want to go back and type in Bill Walsh in the search button wherever you're watching this, especially in the Facebook group, and catch that part one. So this is going to be part two. We're going to be talking about a lot of things sales. Because if you've ever watched the show of Shark Tank or ever run a business or sell for anybody, we all know that the lifeblood of any business is sales. And I've been watching that show Winning Time. Have you ever heard of that?
What is it?
It's called Winning Time. It's supposed to be about the Showtime Lakers when Magic Johnson came to the game and whatnot. And it just reminded me of like how we always think, like when it reminded me of Kobe and Shaq era, because when people are winning, life is fantastic. When people are not winning and it's not going your way, chaos automatically ensues. All those little things come to become the most important things in your life versus going back to that winning attitude. So that's what I feel like with sales. When sales are good, everything is good. When sales are bad, everything is fucking bad. So our goal and our hope is to kind of take you through some of the mindsets, the slumps, the successes, and maybe learn a thing or two about how you can actually up level your skills. Because I know, like with Bill, I know him well enough to talk for him, but I'm going to let him introduce himself in just one moment. That it takes these necessary skills. Like if I can go back in time and tell myself advice when I was scared to order McDonald's through a drive-through at 19 years old because I didn't like to talk to humans, I would say, Rahul, learn fucking sales, because then you're going to get good at a lot of other things like marketing, networking, opportunities, getting people to know who you are versus who you know, because that's how you actually start to crush the game. And then I heard you and Sean talking about multiple streams of investments on your Facebook Live just a moment ago. And that's the important thing, is to really kind of make sure that you do have that diversified income. So you either can take a break, pay all the bills, and eliminate a lot of the stress in your life. And that's what we're going to be talking about. This is going to be a show about how you can be a successful salesperson and what you can do with your money and how you can maybe even get out of some of those slumps.
Absolutely. Yes, no, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me, buddy. I always love coming to speak with you guys. Why? Because you're legit. You know what it is. You do it on a daily basis, and you have to fucking the proof to back it all up. So everything is legit. So I'm super happy to be here, buddy.
Well, you forgot to say it. We got the hat to prove it. So if you have a hat, that means it's fucking legit. So, anyways, why don't you give a little bit of a background so people know who you are that aren't as familiar?
Yeah, no, Bill Welch obviously is my name. I'm, as most people probably can hear and see with the red beard, I am Irish, very proud Irish, as most people will see and hear from me. Kind of walked into sales on the back end of COVID there nearly 2 years ago. And some would say kind of done really, really well. Others would say has done nothing at all, but it's all down to perspective. But I've been the kind of head sales guy for seventh level, which is Jeremy Miner's company over the last maybe 18 months. And, you know, we've scaled it into a position where it is, you know, multiple 8, nearly 9 figure company. And we are the number one sales agency in the list of the great American show front over there. So no, we're very, very proud of it. We're very, very proud of what we are achieving, but also very hungry for what comes next in terms of developing great salespeople and, you know, really helping businesses lift out the bottom line and stuff. So that's what we do. We're salespeople. So
yeah, no, that's great. I think it's the greatest income earning profession in the land, better than doctors, attorneys, anybody. But you mentioned something really quickly. You said you started doing like sales. Did I hear this correct? In the pandemic?
yeah, just coming out of the pandemic, I was a personal trainer in. So I started off obviously as in the army at 17 years of age. Spent 4.5 years in that, and that puts a fucking level of toughness through you. I can tell you that. And you're standing on the side of a mountain, and snow is hitting your face, and you've been walking with 16 hours with 100 pounds on your back. So that will put a level of roughness around you. And I spent then 7 years in London building a fitness business. Was doing really, really well. COVID came, everyone went home. That was it. shut down.
Right. So going back to that moment when COVID shut down everything and you were a fitness pro, so you were doing the selling and actually the training as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was doing it all without even realizing I was doing selling, without realizing that I was just fixing problems, handling objections, really influencing, developing people. Like I look back on what I've done in the fitness world, and like I coached a lady out of a wheelchair. You know what I mean? She was medically bound to a wheelchair, and I coached her with her mindset, her development. Coached her every single day for 18 months to get out of a wheelchair. You know what I mean? And that's something I can always walk away and say, that's really, really proud of. And just looking at that now, that is a level of selling. Every single day I had to sell the idea. Every single day I had to sell the dream. Every single day I had to motivate and give that person courage, conviction, certainty. Everything that was lacking in her life, I had to present to her. And little did I know that is what selling is. We're helping people out of their own way when they're not willing to do it themselves. That's all we do, as loudly as it is.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the founder of Orange Theory Fitness speak, and one of the most amazing things at a Tony Robbins event. And Tony Robbins kind of looked at her as saying, like, you don't sell your product, you sell the gift of life. So I thought that was kind of impactful of how people should take their fitness, because your wellness actually impacts your day. Even if you just do a few push-ups or go for a walk around the block. I mean, that's just kind of like the mental capacity as a sales athlete, if you will, that it takes throughout the day. So I think having that, I don't want to call it a morning routine because I don't really have one, but I don't know if you do or not. So I'll actually ask you, because there's a lot of people out there that they put all these thoughts in their fucking heads. They think like, oh man, my offer, my leads, my this, my that, all these things pop up. It's rising to the top versus up-leveling the skill. Like, what goes through your mind? Like, do you have a morning routine, or how you get yourself mentally prepared?
Do you know what, bro? I try not to put too many emphasis on things that I may or may not control. And what I mean by that is if I have something to blame, then I can always push it somewhere else. And there's a great saying, like, nobody wants to throw stones in a glass house. So the reason being I don't necessarily, quote unquote, have a morning routine is because what happens the day that I don't have the perfect morning routine? Is the day just wipes away? Am I just supposed to wrap it all up? Do I not start my day without having the morning routine all perfected? So I don't necessarily do it myself, and I don't put too much emphasis on it. I like to see my kids in the morning. I like to see my wife. I like to, have a coffee. She's had me on this juice thing for the last 3 days, and I was doing it for her. So I wasn't allowed any coffee. So tomorrow I'm out of prison, so I'll have a coffee tomorrow. But no, I'm very cool about things. I don't put too much emphasis on things. I do a lot of coaching in the morning, so I don't put too much emphasis on a real morning routine as such, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, mine's just get the coffee, start the day. That's all I really do. I'm kind of the guy that, like, if I wake up at 5 a.m, it's 5 a.m. If I wake up at 8 a.m, it's 8 a.m. As long as I hit my obligations for my calendar, but I jump out of bed and I'm already on the phone. So I know a lot of people talk about other things, but besides the point. So if you guys are focusing on what a morning routine is, don't focus on something else. And we're about to get into it. Now, one thing I love about you, and I've talked to my team about it. I said, go to Bill Walsh's profile on Sunday, see what he's about to post. And what I love about your Sunday post, it's going to be a picture of a book. It's going to be a picture of a screen, and it's going to be a picture of maybe a Google Doc. One of those things, or all three. And that just shows that your relentlessness to your craft is always ever going. Now, why do you do that?
Why do I do it? Because I'm scared. Every day, and I'll be very transparent and honest with you, buddy. And when I do podcasts and do interviews and all that kind of stuff, I wear my hat on my sleeve and I tell the honest truth, because that's what people want to hear and that's who I am. I'm scared. Every day I'm scared. I'm scared of, and I was just talking to Sean about this, I'm scared of the worst day of my life and I couldn't lift my head off the pillow. I'm scared of ever not doing what I need to do to take care of my kids and provide the life that I want to provide. So it does two things for me. It gets me hungry and it keeps that relentless drive, because I know what it's like to not have money. I know what it's like to not have a skill that is ultimately producing what I produce. And I know probably you're the same. You can remember back days when you weren't Rahul and you didn't have GSD, and everything that you always wanted on that day was to be somewhat successful. You know what I mean? I look at what I've done now and I'm like, okay, I'm like on level 1, but I want to get to level 10. And I'm sure you never ever get there. But for me, it's the hunger and it's desire and it's that little bit of fear that keeps me going every single day.
I love that answer because like I wake up the same day, same way every single day. I'm at zero. Like if I had a great day today on a Friday, make 20, 30 grand, whatever it is, I really don't care. But tomorrow I'm at zero. So I really try to put myself in the mind of an athlete. It's like, what have you done for me lately? And it does put a level of pressure, but I channel that pressure into like goals. So I don't like do paralysis by analysis. I like to actually use that as inspiration, motivation, not like self-sacrifice to fuck yourself in the mind. It's just more like, hey, today's Saturday. What are you going to do to get better? Or are you going to choose to just relax, but don't do something that's going to put you behind the 8 ball come Sunday or Monday? So that's kind of like the everyday game I'm playing in my head, because you've been in like, you've seen the battlefields, and I'm not going to even compare anything to that because I've never seen anything. I've never actually even held a gun in my life. But like when it comes to athletics, I feel like that put that relentlessness into us because we didn't have always the most pleasant of coaches, which I actually am the most grateful for. It was kind of like military sergeant type style of training, like run like a fucking horse and get whipped if you don't meet their requirements. So that actually was the best training I had as a child. And then going into the empathetic training was where it kind of helped me click and go further. Now, when it comes back to like you go from fitness, you're in the middle of a pandemic. Are you panicking and scared, or are you going into saying, hey, I have a fucking opportunity of my lifetime in front of me and I just need to get the skills?
I was scared shitless.
Yeah.
Shitless. I was completely petrified. It was, we were told to go home on like the 25th of March, and I had a baby. She was hanging on my wall on the 7th of May. So January, February, March, April, May. So you think of it, there was what, 4 weeks between having this amount of money to zero to having a baby that's just about to come into the world. I was scared shitless, absolutely petrified. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how I was doing it. I didn't know where I was going in life. I thought it was a complete failure. I thought everything was just so weighted against me. Why is this happening? I'm so unfair. All this other garbage that was there for maybe a couple of days, and then I was like, okay, that's not going to help. So let's put that and wrap it in a bowl and put it over there. And then I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said to me, I'm kind of in the same position you are, but I have this online course that I'm trying to kind of just tie the bills with and just making sure that we can do it. So he says, why don't you come in and just help me try and sell this? And I was like, what, you want to pay me to go in and sell that? And he says, yeah. And I was like, how much do you want to pay me? He was like, well, look, it's going to go for 80 quid. If you can sell it, I'll give you 35. I was like, what? You're going to give me 35 quid to sell this thing? I was like, okay. So when the kind of penny dropped for me, I was selling these packages. And I remember back then when I was selling my fitness, I was selling them for $60 or £60 an hour. Now, I was going through 2 sales an hour. I was sitting in my office in a pair of shorts, not having to drive anywhere, making just as much money, probably more every single day after like a week and a half. And I was like, okay, there's something here now. I can see this materialize and I can see this going somewhere. And that was really it. After that, then it was just like starting to slowly come out of fitness and then go all the way into the sales aspect of things. That was, if I look back now, because I always say to people, like the days are long, but the weeks are slow. Or no, hold on, sorry. So the days are long, but the weeks are slow. What I mean by that is that we're like when I went full time in sales, it was January 2020, January 2021, which is what, 15 months ago.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much has happened in 15 months, but if I think of it, looking back, it's like that must be 5 years ago. So it's knowing that, you know, when I was in that position, you know, I was just looking at things. I was like, okay, there's something here. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm kind of really gearing for, you know. So that was really it. Yeah.
I think sales, like my mentality is opposite of like when my family was doing their jobs, like they were entrepreneurs and my dad was everybody loves my dad. I'm a 50-50. Either you're going to like me or you're going to hate me just because my attitude, right? Like he's just charismatic as shit. If somebody burns him, takes a deal from him or whatever he was doing in his business, running a software company, he always never burned a bridge. And And sometimes in my younger days, I'd hold grudges, but now I don't give a shit. Now I've learned from wisdom. But I think what we do is the greatest thing in the world. Like his whole thing was go out and visit people, go network, be in the crowd, stand out, sell your product, sell your service, tell the world. I was like, man, if I can just sit behind this phone instead of going and meeting 2 or 3 people in a day and driving through Los Angeles traffic, that fucking sucks. When I don't like wearing suits or ties, I like wearing shorts and t-shirts. What if I can just hammer out 150, 200 calls just sitting behind my desk and make more money? So that's what I just decided to do. So in the beginning of my time, I love the fact that I had to cold call, and it's a hindsight thing. Just because when I get leads or I create influence, now, I think there's nothing better in the world than being able to call somebody that doesn't want your phone call in the first place, to be able to open up their mind and their ears to listen to you further, then also do business with you because they have value in you. And that would all happen within like 5 to 7 minutes. We were selling $150 services at that particular time because we established a great price, a great solution, a big problem, and we were pretty good relentlessly because what we lacked in skill, we made up in volume.
Yep.
And then once we started to get the skill and we kept a good sized volume, then it was just a matter of like, fuck, we don't know what the hell we're doing running this goddamn company. But all we know is our bank account says $30,000 in our first month. We're like, yeah, we're like, holy shit, this, we got something going on here. We have 2 duos.
How long did you do that for? That cold call and that
The cold calling for I would say a solid, and when I'm not underestimating this, I would say at minimum 5 years. We did this every single day, all day. We did get a bunch of inbound. We started spending the money on some ads and getting people calling us, but we didn't want to wait for the ads. We wanted to say, hey, if we want something, we're going to break a door down. We're going to go get in front of it. So that's what we specifically did. And then we started getting creative with our packages because we're like, well, if we can sell $150, maybe we can sell 1,050. So we just created a package that made sense. That was like, hey, this is $5,000 worth of stuff. You could redeem it in the next year. Just you have to pay for it today. And that's what we ended up doing, 1,050 per every phone call that we made. And we were good at getting credit cards over the phone. And we did it with the most limited resources. I mean, all we had was internet connection, a laptop, 1 laptop between 2 of us. And then we had 2 cell phones. And then we just called 24/7. And this 5-year thing, I'm talking about like waking up, getting to work already on the phones by 5 a.m. and then going home like 9-10 p.m. was like the last call. Going home was a different story. Sometimes we didn't. And this is like sleeping in the office, that old story about people sleeping in the office. We actually did. We had a fucking couch. That was one of our investments. Was we need rest. We're not going home. We're not showering. It's disgusting, but we're going to hit the couch. And that's what we did. We just worked out and worked. And we had a one-dimensional mind. It was like, let's cure our money problems. Once we cure those, let's then cure the other things, our relationships and our health.
Yeah. I unfortunately can't do that though. Why? Because I got 2 young kids.
Yeah. It was a circumstantial thing, right? So like we had that ability, so we took advantage of the tools and the skills that we had. So yeah, it's different. But
don't do that. What do you think people don't take advantage of what they can do? What do you think people don't put themselves in a pressure cooker like that to make it or break it?
I think they're fearful and they're assuming. So, and maybe lack of confidence, like that goes under the fear bucket. But I think people are scared because they're assuming that the people that they're about to talk to don't want to talk back to them, so they don't take the swing at the bat. I'm a big fan of like, I don't make assumptions. And I learned this from a lesson early on in my sales career was I'll never assume or judge anybody, because if I looked at myself in the mirror, I would say, hey, you're fucking broke. Like you would never buy a Porsche. You would never buy a house. You can't buy anything. So whenever I made that judgment once with some dude in Puerto Rico, and he ended up being like this wealthy motherfucker, like owning farms and shit. And ever since that moment in time, I've never made any assumption or decision on anyone else's behalf without allowing them the opportunity to learn and make their own assumptions and decisions. So I think that's what a lot of people get in their head with is like, they know what to do. They have the to-do list. They give up too early, but then the phone becomes 500 fucking pounds for them and they can't pick that bitch up. And then when they have inbound, the fear is even greater because now they put their self-pressure because they lack the skills pretty much. Where they're like, oh, I'll call. I hope they fucking miss. And a lot of people, I know this, they'll let it ring 4 times, not even go to voicemail, because then they can say, oh, I called, and not do the redial, not do the text, not do the email, not do the DM, not do the tagging, not do the things that they already know in their head that they need to be done to make that money or make that sale, make that person happy. Like with you, if you didn't help that lady in the wheelchair, That lady could have fucking committed suicide. That lady could have killed herself. That lady could have just been in the wheelchair. You know what I mean? So it's just like we have to give ourselves that opportunity, that obligation to give an opportunity to help people. So if we have this skill, let's fucking share that shit without fear.
Yeah. Because it comes down to, and I just said that to Sean, like when people are getting no's and people are getting like really hung up and obviously not making sales and not making money and doing all those kind of things, when you actually enter a conversation for the wrong reason and you enter it for your own selfish outcome, that person can feel it. They know you're there for them. They know you're there for yourself, which ultimately means that they're never going to walk with you because they don't feel a connection. They don't feel that you're there to help. They feel that you are there to sell them. And when somebody feels like that, then it's no bueno. They're not going to happen. It's not going to be happy. It's not going to process, and you're not ultimately going to get paid. So you need to enter every conversation in the capacity, I need to help that person. The direct correlation of me helping that person is I get paid. And everybody wins. But it can't go one without, it can't go the other side. You can't get paid first without helping.
I absolutely fucking love that. And one of the mottos I know you talk about, I talk about is like, don't attach yourself to the sale because you never had it in the first place. So, I mean, that's one of the biggest learning lessons I've learned when my very first sales career. That's the first thing the guy told us. And mind you, he had a very aggressive selling methodology, which worked back then, but that still resonates as true because if you can't walk them down the path of their success and as a collateral damage, you get yours. I mean, it's going to be a short run relationship because people like time poses wisdom, right? So if somebody gets sold, time will prove that you sold them, right? So then you don't have a repeatable repeat customer or a video testimonial or referrals. So that cascading effect on fucking somebody over selling for just the money and not the win-win-win situation is going to hurt you long run. And that's how you burn the bridges. I mean, we all know those salespeople that have a LinkedIn resume a mile fucking long. It's because they can't go back and sell to their previous clients. They always are starting from zero, going on and on and on.
Yeah. And they can't stay in positions long term. Why? Because they're not in a position because they burn their bridges.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
very funny about video testimonies. Like I coach a lot of people now and stuff like that, and everybody wants to do the video testimonies. Everyone's like, "Can I give you a video testimony?" And I know you guys are the exact same. Because when you bring someone into your world and you help that person, like I've just had the guy go from 5,000 to 25,000 in 8 weeks in terms of coaching. And he's like, I want to give you a video testimony. I want people to see what you've been able to help me do. And it's a bit like you guys. Like at the end of the day, when you provide a tremendous service for somebody and you do well for that person, they actually want to reciprocate the actual essence what you've given them. And they want to make sure that you're getting something out of it too. Take the money out of it. The money will come and go, but it's the relationships that you build long term will ultimately determine how successful you're going to be, in my eyes. You know, and that's
100%. Now, for the people out there, I mean, there's a lot of salespeople, or like, I mean, whether you like it or not, you are a salesperson. We're selling every day, whether it's you're buying on the internet or you're persuading your child to eat the vegetables over ice cream for dinner to begin with, right? So there's always some form of persuasion in front of us. Like here's a hack. Before I ask my question, here's one thing that I want to challenge people to do is when you're not, this is when you're a buyer. Now go somewhere like a Starbucks or a grocery store. When you bring your groceries up to the front of the line, ask for a discount. So I'd like 5% off. See how uncomfortable that is. I've done that and I've got it. And that's weird. It's the weirdest, oddest question, but what the point being, it's a brain hack. It's just like, hey, instead of you selling to somebody and creating pressure, buy something and ask for a discount. Then you can reverse it into your own sales. And I typically like to do that in weird formats where it's not normal to ask for a discount. And that's one of the brain hacks that I use. And I got that from Tim Ferriss when he was doing a Gary Vee podcast. And I just love that. It's uncomfortable shit. People behind you are listening. You feel awkward. They feel awkward and nobody knows what to do. So that's a cool way to kind of just think of something. But you like now this is a great story because we all came from nothing, right? And there's people who have what we call natural talent, which I don't think exists. I think it's a learned behavior. And then it's people who adapt and actually commit better than other people. And then there's going to be the slower moving talent where it's like, hey, it takes a journey to finally make something click. And that could just be a learning experience. Now, you went from January 2021, you jump into this situation. Now, for the people out there that are feeling like I need some cash, I need to sell my offer, I have a great product, I can help people. Like walk me through like your mentality of like your journey of like how you got these skills. Like, because I've seen you being fucking beast. Like, I want to say right when you started, you know what I mean? But you just took it all to a whole new level today.
Yeah, it's kind of like how long is a piece of string? You just don't know how to answer something sometimes. You know, it's kind of like I can definitely appreciate what you said around it is a learned experience, but also for me, I think some people are just very, very good at certain things. You know, and it's once you understand you're very good at something, it's then what do you do with it? Because I know, and I know sports people, like I come from very professional side of sport. I know people that were like far better than me that never achieved just as much as I did. Why? Because they didn't use their skill, they never trained it, they never developed it, which means that they got washed out with people that were half as good as them but worked fucking twice as hard as them. So it is a case of knowing where your weak points are, but also developing and moving with the right people. If I could look back on the last 10 years of what I, you know, in terms of entrepreneurship, what I would tell myself is find the right vehicle and learn from people that you want to be quickly and get in around them, even if you have to pay them, even if you have to fucking carry their coffee, even if you have to fucking work for them for somewhat free. You know, get around that experience, get around that environment, learn what they're doing because they are going to give you what ultimately they have done to get to where they are today. That's what I would do if I was in that position. But it's also learning what you need to do to get to where you want to be. So for me, when I started, I looked at sales and I went, okay, well, I looked at it like a sport. Is it? I get paid for what I perform. So I looked at it like sports and I looked at it like golf. I said to myself, I could drive this ball down to the green in 2 shots, but if it takes me 4 shots to put it in, then I'm fucked. So I said to myself, how about I drive it down in 3 shots and I put it in 1 shot, which ultimately means now I'm in a far better position. So I went back to front where most people go top down. Most people try and figure out how to open up a conversation, how to get all that kind of stuff. From my own experience of what I've been in life, I like I had a pub in Ireland as well. So I've been in places where I've just had multiple conversations and just be very comfortable in circumstances. So I just looked at sales and I said, okay, well, what do I need to get better at? And I just went all the way down to the end. I went to objections. So I need to get very, very good at objections. I need to get someone into a position where I can influence and persuade. So I got very, very good at objections and then I went up the way. You know what I mean? So that takes a little bit of time because you need experience and you need reps, you know. But I just learned very, very quickly if I can stay in the pocket with somebody and I can keep going around with their objection handling, I can get very, very good at it, which ultimately means you get paid, which ultimately means you can help that person out of the wrong way. So that's how I more or less got okay at sales, is that I went to the bottom because most people go top down. I said, okay, if everyone's going top down and they're only producing a certain amount of results, then I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to go bottom up. And that's what I did.
I love that. I mean, because we already know that they're coming anyways, right? There's going to be fear, there's going to be skepticism, money, partners, etc., right? So like that's such a great way is just to, I mean, we just did this with ourselves. I mean, we do it over and over again. We've done this many times is we write the scripts, but then we have objections. Like, what are we going to run into? Here's how we handle it. Here's a story loop behind it. So it's just an Excel spreadsheet that we just need to literally write down. What are you experiencing? How would you handle it? How would you prevent it? How would you story loop it? So it's like it's kind of like silly to me when I see people going and operating for so long and not getting what they want. But then it comes down to you just got to document things and practice it just like any skill, because the boring shit really fucking wins and wins big. And going back to the story analogy about athletes, like what does every athlete do before every game? What do they do at every single practice? They start off with their free throws. Kobe Bryant shooting 1,000 a day. The layup drills, that's fucking boring. They're going to make it every single time, but they're doing that so they don't lose it. They're doing that so they can actually do the fancy stuff that is outside of just that basic. So I'm a big fan of boring fucking wins.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not easy and it's not sexy and it's not something that you're going to write home and say, oh my God, look what I've done today. And there's going to be long days and there's going to be a lot of no's. You got
Yeah.
to get comfortable with that. You got to get comfortable why people say no to you. You got to get comfortable with rejection. Because at the end of the day, if you're not comfortable with rejection, you won't be comfortable with losing 50K or 10K or 100K in some property deal or whatever it may be. You just have to understand that this is life. This is the game that we're playing. And if you don't want to play it, go to a 9 to 5.
100%. Yeah. Safety works for a lot of people. The 9 to 5 is a predictable paycheck, predictable clock in, clock out, predictable amount of vacation and time off. There's definitely nothing wrong with that. But like when Bill mentioned get around the right community, that's so key because like I've been around the wrong communities before, whether it's personal or in work. And then you ultimately take advice from the wrong people. And then that is the most expensive mistake that you could possibly make. And it's scary to go pay somebody. But if you're going to go ask like Tony Robbins for their time, how the fuck is he going to give it to you without paying the guy? You get into that type of community, a Jeremy Miner, a Bill Walsh. Everybody has a value and a skill that they've built up their entire life. And that expectation is, yeah, videos can be for free, but if you want somebody's time and to really get that personalization to get to the next level, you just have to pay. And when you mentioned like carry somebody's bags, I literally made that offer just recently to an attorney who bought a car wash. And I said, hey, I don't know anything about car washes, but I do want to deploy capital into investments and diversify. Would it be cool if I go with you just to watch? I won't even bother you to the next car wash convention. I'll carry your bags. I'll pay for your flight and I'll get my own room. I'm like, that's all I want. I just want to see you operate in action. And the answer was yes. And I'm like, dude, my way of paying him is through flight, through carrying his bag. I'll take all the notes. I'll record anything he wants. I'll be his little bitch assistant for as long as it takes so I can get that fucking skill to buy a damn car wash or choose not to. Right. So I think that's important that we get around the people. And the way to get that is the only reason I have that opportunity to ask that person that question is because I bought the network.
Yeah. Yeah, you bought it. Yeah, because what else do you have to offer? You've nothing other because you have to understand that every relationship and every kind of business transaction has to have two both. You have to get something. I have to get something. Without me getting something and you getting everything, then it's a selfish ordeal. And nobody wants to sign up for a selfish ordeal. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that type of relationship. And yeah, things can blossom and you can build a friendship from things. And sometimes you might not need to pay. And then it's just a case of we're friends and that we're helping each other. But even in that capacity, there's still going to have to be a give and take. Yeah. I'm giving you a deal, you give me a deal. I'm giving you a call, you give me a call. Nobody wants to be in a relationship where you're doing all the calling, you're doing all the legwork, because that goes in a place where you're actually spiteful. So 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's dive into some stuff, some sales stuff.
Cool.
Now, like you mentioned, you like to talk about, or you started at the bottom, or where the objections handle are, so we can kind of get those to be prevented or handle and walk people through that scenario. Do you have some sort of like formula that you can share with people, or is it very specific by the objection?
Yeah, everything has a framework, everything has an understanding, but ultimately you got to know what you're dealing with. Now, what I mean by that is in sales and in everything that we do in life, people like to lie. It's just like, that's what it is. People like to lie and people like to smoke screen. Mm-hmm. So if people are giving you a smoke screen, then how do you penetrate the smoke screen? You can never only overcome the real objection. Okay, and if someone is giving me, I need to think about it. What does it think about it, Raoul? What is that?
Think about it. To me, that's a fuck off. That's a smoke screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Because here's the
truth. I don't even know what that I don't know what to do that with that information because it just puts you in no man's land. Yeah, so we have to dig.
It's just empty space. Because here, do this, right? If I walk past you and you're in quicksand and I stick out my hand and I say to you, hey buddy, here's my hand, or else you're going to die, and you turn around and you say, yeah, just let me think about it. Doesn't make sense, does it? And in business, we have to understand, let me think about it is absolutely nothing. There's an objection behind the smokescreen of the objection. And without getting to the real objection, you can never understand why that person is stopping themselves from moving forward. Whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's fear, whether it's logistics, whether it's obviously, things are not really where they need to be. Without you getting the real understanding of what the real objection is, you're always going to stay stuck. And you can't actually penetrate because one lie can fall into another lie and fall into another lie. It's just dominoes. So you got to pull them up, and you got to just get to the real objection. The faster you can get to the real objection, the faster you can actually help that person overcome it.
Yeah, no, I love that. So what's some examples? Let me think about it. I say, let me think about it. What's and do you go straight to the quicksand? Because that's where I got that line from, was from you, from our last live. Because I actually used that. I used the quicksand, and then I pivoted it into I used the war in Ukraine, because somebody said, hey, I really can't make a decision. I need to think about it. And I said, well, what do you think the people in Ukraine had to do? You think they need to think about going to a neighboring country for safety? What about your business? Let's move forward. So I kind of like put analogies together, and it's not to be insensitive. It was just using real-time information in the news.
Yeah, and you have to, when people are objection handling, I see it all the time. You got to make the objection. You got to make the reason for you trying to overcome the objection relatable. So for me, I use a lot of sport. I use a lot of kind of understanding kids. I use an awful lot of like cars and kind of just things that people do on a daily basis to help that person understand, what am I saying? Does it actually make sense for me not to do this because I'm saying X? Okay, so if you say to me, I need to think about it, I would say, yeah, that's not a problem. And I suppose, like, in your capacity, I'll always bring it back to the actual program that I'm helping that person go into. And I always in my head want to, because now when someone is saying I need to think about it and presenting an objection, what's actually going on in their head? What are they saying? What are the words? What are the words that's coming up in their head?
When they say, I want to think about it?
And I want to think about it, I got to speak to my partner, I got to go and kind of look at the money and all those essence. What is the one word that is coming up in their head? It's not a trick question, I'll tell you. The one word that's coming up is no.
Yeah. Like they want to get off the call. They feel the fear just came.
Yeah. All of those objections are a word of no. That's all they are. That's all they're doing. So in my mind, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to turn their no in their head to a yes. Because if I can start saying yes again in this thing up here, then I can have that conversation again. So the first thing I would say, yeah, that's not a problem. And I can definitely appreciate that you want to go and think about it. But in your own opinion, because everybody has a fucking opinion rule, don't they? Everyone has one. In your own opinion, in terms of what we have presented to you today, do you feel that can get you to X, Y, and Z moving forward? Yes or no? Because that's the most important part, isn't it? Now, what does that person say, Ru?
Yes, yeah. I think it could.
Okay, but why do you feel it can? Like, what are the elements in that specifically mean that they're going to be the key to the castle, or they're going to be the key to your future, whatever it may be?
Well, you mentioned that you'd help me with leads and fill my calendar, and then also be able to like sell them into the program.
Now what are we doing? We're having a better conversation. Now that person is not saying no, they're starting with positivity, and they're starting with future pacing, and they're starting with yeses. And they're giving themselves understanding, and they're starting to say to themselves, okay, this is going to work. And then I double down. So I like to call those double binds, where you're actually asking it, you're also asking why it's going to work. And that's something that Jeremy and all of us have kind of, really kind of developed on. And then the next kind of thing is, now you need to get the understanding of what to think about actually is. So I would say that is okay, and I can definitely appreciate that you want to go and think about this long term. Well, when you do go and think about it, like, what is coming up for you specifically that makes you want to go and sit in it, just to see if I can actually help? Now, what are they going to tell me? They're going to tell me the real objection. What are they going to say then? They're going to say what?
No, they're going to be fully transparent. They're going to come out, well, I just don't have the funds, or I need to, like, my partner, or something that is truthful will start to resurface.
Correct. Because now I've just penetrated the lie. So now they're going to turn around and they're going to be like, yeah, I just want to think about the money. Yeah, I just want to think about this and kind of run this over with my partner. Yes, I want to kind of just really think about this and just make sure I have this budgeted out for myself, which could be a fear. Yeah, I just have to kind of think about this because I don't know where I'm going to be on the 1st of September. Logistics. So they're ultimately going to give me, more often than not, the real objection that's actually behind the think about it. I coach in the 3.0, and I coach my own kind of clients and stuff like that. The amount of times that people get to think about it and don't know what that actually means is phenomenal. And if all I can give you today is what to say, how to say it, when to say it, why you're saying it, when you get to think about it, you'll be 1,000,000% more richer. Why? Because think about it is not an objection. It's a smokescreen. What do you need to think about? I need to have that conversation. I need to have the conversation that's actually behind to think about it. Because then I can actually help you overcome it. Makes sense?
100%.
Yeah.
I love that framework. Everybody who's out there, smash some fucking heart buttons there for that one. That one's a freebie from Coach Bill Walsh. Like, is that like I can't tell you how many times I hear that, not only for if I'm talking to people, but also when I listen to calls. Because a lot of times when the most common thing is like, oh, no problem. Like, should we set up a call for next week? It's straight to like getting off the phone. And when you do that, number one, it's a skill deficit, because now you have nothing to follow up. Because what would you follow up with in a week? How would that person commit to wanting to get on your calendar next week? Because they have no benefit, because you haven't actually dug deeper to allow the prospect to actually even say what's on their mind. They don't feel like you can help them. So there's no point in booking another call, because there's going to be a high probability that they're just not going to show up, or do an auto text and saying, hey, I'll hit you back when I'm ready. And there's nothing worse in the world than burning a fucking lead that could have been an opportunity just because we weren't prepared.
Yeah, and just because you don't have the skills to overcome it. And that's why it's a tremendous skill to be able to help and influence people. It's, as you say, the number one skill in the world. No matter what you do, no matter how you do it, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a police officer, whether you're a businessman, whether you're a pilot, you're always trying to influence somebody. You're always trying to get somebody to do something for your benefit and their benefit.
Yeah, 100%. So like going through, like my favorite part about you is the Sundays. And I don't know why. I love people that have goals, and they like, if you don't use it, you lose it. And even when I take even if I go have drinks with the buddies and I don't do anything the next day, I feel a little groggy, even though it's only been 24 hours off. That's why I like to have some sort of like information in my head, whether I just read something or listen to something. Like what do you do to up-level your skills when nobody's looking?
Yeah, good question. I read, and reading doesn't come naturally to me. I didn't do well in school, and I'll be brutally honest. Why I didn't do well in school? Because nothing really clicked. If I went to entrepreneur school at 8 years of age, I'd be a multi-millionaire right now. If I went to sports school at 6 years of age, I'd probably be a professional football player.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't. You know what I mean? I didn't have that kind of killer at the certain things that they wanted me to do. I couldn't tell you how to do any maths process right now, but I can show you how to make money, and I can show you if a deal will stack up and it can produce passive income. You know what I mean? So there's certain things that I love to do that give me that pride, that give me that passion, that give me that fire every single day. And that's what I try and fill myself up with every Sunday. Why? Because I look at Sunday. I remember when I was in the army and I hated Sunday. I hated Sunday because I knew I had to shave, and I knew I had to get my hair right. I knew I had to polish my boots, and I knew I had to be in a position where someone was going to scream in my face for having a fucking hair out of place. And I got to a stage very, very quickly that I was a caged animal that I just needed to open up and let loose. So I look at Sundays now as an opportunity. I look at Sundays as a joy. I get to actually enjoy what I love to do. I get to make great money, okay? And I get to influence great people to do better things. Why wouldn't I want to learn and study that every single day? I take Saturdays off, Saturdays as kids. But if I can go to the coffee shop, get in there really, really early, have that dedication and commitment, and actually, drive to do those things. Because it's not easy getting up on a Sunday early, as we all know. Some people like to get up early and blah, 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 but good for them. Not everybody likes to get up at the crack of dawn. But if I can have that discipline to get up at, whatever time I get up at, and go and put 2 hours into self-development, study, train, fill my kind of structure for next week, then I'm already ahead of everybody else, aren't I? Mm-hmm. So that's what I like to do. It gives me that discipline, but it also gives me a perspective of, now I enjoy what I do, so I want to do it forever and always. So why wouldn't you do
it? What's that?
So it's a case of, for me, I always ask myself the question, why wouldn't I want to do that? Because I love to do it, Now it's not a force, it's actually a joy, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like when you love what you do, you just want to commit to it. And I like to also, and this is like something I put in my head, is like I think binary is possible, like a or B decision. So if I know I'm lacking something or I need to do something to improve, and I choose not to, then I think, okay, on one hand, you need the skill. On the other hand, you're intentionally choosing not to do that. So what outcome do you expect? So that's the kind of game I play in my head, even when I'm just talking to myself, like a lot of salespeople which may sound like crazy when we're like mouthing words to nobody. But that's kind of like how I do it. I just make those decisions in my head. A, you're going to get what you want and get further ahead of other people. B, you're intentionally choosing to be a piece of shit. Which one would you like to be today? Were you going to say something?
I'm just laughing. I don't want to be a piece of shit. No thanks.
Yeah. But sometimes you need those extreme situations like the quicksand. Are you going to grab the hand or you not? Because there really is no other decision than life preservation. And the quicker we learn that and the quicker we take that serious, the quicker you can actually build the wealth to take those vacations you've always want to. But that's the way I was growing up, is like or work hard now, party hard later. Like enjoy the fruits of the labor once you can actually like live for a couple of years with no income and prepare for the worst situations possible. Then you kind of have that freedom, flexibility to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Until then, stay in the game, stay hard and paint and work hard and keep getting better, because I'll tell you this, it's fucking competitive out there. It's extremely competitive. If you want to get a coffee, there's 17 different coffee shops now. If you want to get coaching, there's a billion different coaches. You want to learn sales, there's a billion different options. So we just have to keep getting better, because the natural procrastination of humans is a great asset for people who don't procrastinate. You can just get farther ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And like whether you realize it or want to actually realize it, is you're always competing. Tony Robbins is the top of the food chain, but he's not there because he just rests on his laurels. He's there because he knows he's competing every single day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's rating the exact same. He retired, lost that hunger for life, in my opinion, lost that hunger and that drive and that competitive edge. He says, I have to do that. Why? Because it gives me life. And if you're not in that position where you don't enjoy the competitiveness of what we do in business and life investments and property and everything else, then we're fucked. We're completely and utterly fucked. You know, so you have to enjoy the challenge. You have to put yourself up against the best. And some days you're going to win and some days you're going to lose. But every time you lose, if you stop, then you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Up and going again. And that's the beauty of sales. And that's, in my opinion, the beauty of business. Because as you said at the start of this hour, every day I wake up with zero sales, zero money made, zero life changed. And I have to work on getting those numbers up. And that's what it's all about. If you don't enjoy that, if you don't enjoy that competitiveness of every day start at zero, you're already done. You're gone. Because it's going to be a matter of time and it's going to get too hard. And then you're just going to fall away.
Yeah, because that's when it transitions to pressure. Like you feel pressured to do something if you don't wake up out of the gates like, hey, I can't wait to do this. And I don't want to echo Gary Vee about do what you love, but you do need some passion in what you do. That's an important part of it, because we have choices. I mean, fuck, dude, there's people making money like doing the dumbest shit ever. And it's what they love. I mean, who would have thought like 10 years ago, if you danced and you had good rhythm, that you can be a fucking creator? Like you can literally do anything you want today. So anyways, thank you so much, Mr. Bill Walsh. How do people get a hold of you? How do people learn about you?
Yeah, so obviously pretty kind of well in terms of Facebook, Instagram. Those are the kind of big two places. I'm too old for TikTok now and all the rest of those other things. I just try and keep in one or two platforms. So Facebook is probably the biggest one, and then obviously Instagram. More than happy for people to reach out if they're struggling with anything, if they want any advice or any help. You know, come and let me know. More than happy to give some advice on things and stuff like that, and see how best I can kind of really streamline and get people operating. But yeah, that's the big two, buddy. Those are the big ones.
Awesome. If you guys need to tag Bill in the comments, thank him for everything. Thank you for joining us as always. I always enjoy these conversations, even if it's life, sales, money, investments, everything. It's always just great to talk to great people like you. So thanks for joining us today.